Hebrew Study Tools, and today we're going to be looking at nouns, definite articles, and the conjunction. Hebrew nouns function just like English nouns do. They're used to indicate a person, place, a thing, or an idea. Like English, Hebrew nouns can be either singular or plural in number, but unlike English, they can also be dual in number, indicating a plurality of two, like 2 eyes, 2 hands. So the word I will be in a dual form, and Logos will tell you that. Hebrew nouns also have gender, and they're either masculine or feminine. Now, one note about that is that masculine and feminine nouns don't necessarily relate to gender, but they relate to usually internal or external things. But I want you to notice on this chart here in the red, these are the endings right here that are added to, here's the basic lexical or dictionary form, the masculine singular form of horse. Here, these vowels and this vowel and these 2 consonants here will make a horse plural. Notice down here with some other symbols, it's the dual form. So it would be 2 horses versus a multitude of horses. Over here on the feminine side, law would basically have that. Now, Logos is going to parse this for you and tell you what is masculine, feminine, singular, plural, or dual, but just so that you could see this. So there are endings that are added to the ends of, of words. So your summary chart, basically, these are all the endings. They're fairly static. Singular endingless means that it's going to be the basic, whatever the form of the word is. All these other things are going to be added onto nouns. When in doubt with regard to a word's meaning or form, you will have to look it up in what's called a Hebrew lexicon. Now, in traditional Hebrew, you'd have to do that. But in Logos, it will actually give you a link to the page in the dictionary or the lexicon that we need to go. In our case, it's going to be the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament. When looking up a noun or a noun in the lexicon, you must search for its lexical form. It's always in the singular, masculine singular form. Logos will display the lexical form for you. The lexicon that you choose as your primary reference work will show the full range of definitions for the root word, allowing you to understand more fully what the word is saying. In this case, we're using the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament. Here's an example of what the parsing page from the new Logos 4 looks like. Here, if I can get my mouse. Notice this is the word in the text. Here's the English sympathetically highlighted here. This is the beginning. And notice here you have noun, singular, feminine. And then there's a plus or minus sign, meaning that 2 different schools of thought are parsing it differently. And basically what you have here is a common construction, or another school of thought is saying it's a common absolute. But we'll deal with that when we get into translation. But it's singular, feminine, noun. So notice here that at the end of the word is our words that show that it's feminine. Also, there are links here to the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, the DBL Hebrew article, and I have another lexicon called Halot. You will have DBL, which is what we're going to use as a link to Theological Word Book, and I will talk about that later. Sorry about the clock. Next, we'll be talking about the definite article. There we go, 1 o'clock. In English, a noun will be either definite or indefinite. Nouns are definite when they appear with the definite article the, as in the student, the book, and the teacher. Nouns are indefinite when they appear, either without the definite article or with the indefinite article, a or an, as in a student, a book, or an instructor. In Hebrew, there is no indefinite article. Therefore, melech may be translated as either king or a king. For this reason, words occurring without the definite article should be considered indefinite unless otherwise indicated. excuse me, there are three types of definite nouns in Hebrew. The most common definite noun are those occurring with the Hebrew definite article, which we'll be learning. Proper nouns, Egypt, and nouns with possessive pronouns, your book, are also considered to be definite. The Hebrew word for king or a king is not elm, it's melech. My Hebrew font here is not doing well. As it appears, the noun is indefinite. In Hebrew, a noun is made definite by prefixing, or putting at the beginning of a word, the definite article, which consists of a plus or of a hey plus a dagesh forte in the first consonant of the noun. And notice that a dagesh lene only appears in the begad kafat letters. But let's take a look at this, what we're talking about here. Here is the form of the definite article, right here, the hey, and then this vowel, and then this is the dagesh forte or lene that will show up. And this is going to be the, usually. Now the nice thing is that logos is going to indicate when you have a definite article, so you don't have to worry about when things change. So here's an example of how it is prefixed. Notice here you have our definite article. Whoops, sorry. The definite article. And here's melech, our word for king. Notice when you prefix the definite article to melech, it puts the dagesh lene here in the middle of the mem. You can see this a little bit more clearly down here. And that's how, when you see this word, it would be parsed definite article plus noun masculine singular, the king. And logos is going to separate those out for you. Now here's some more examples. The dagesh lene is changed to the dagesh forte. Basically it's the dot. It's the same dot. It's just called differently. But what usually when you look at a word in your text, this is going to be there. And if it looks like this, it's sometimes, most of the time, going to be a definite article. Sometimes, though, it is not. So we looked at nouns and definite article. Let's take a look now at the conjunction. The conjunction occurs more frequently than any other word in Hebrew, with over 50,000 occurrences, meaning, and it's the conjunction with the va consecutive, occurs about 2.5 times per verse. And when it appears, it always is a prefix to another. And you can have the conjunction and the definite article. The nice thing is that logos is going to separate each of those features out for you. And this is basically going to be it. The va at the beginning of a word, more likely than often than not, is going to be the conjunction. And logos, again, will tell you. There's some examples of how the conjunction works with other words. You can see the commonality, so it stands out. It's a pretty nice little feature. There are rules about how they change, and so you can see over here that the vowels change. It's not the same one all the time, and that is dependent upon the vowel under the first letter. This is what's so nice about logos is you don't have to memorize all of these forms and clue them out, because sometimes words begin with a va. So it's translated and, but, also, then, when, now, or but, that, or even, depending upon context and what actually works. So you just need to go back to this slide in your notes on in your tab binder to find that out. So that is our lesson then on nouns, the definite article, and the conjunction. Please email me if you have any questions.